Welcome to the TOEFL Listening section. In this part, you will hear one or more conversations in an academic or campus context, such as a discussion between a student and a professor, or between two students. You may take notes while listening. Listen to part of a conversation. You will hear it only once, so listen carefully. After the conversation, you will answer questions about what you heard. Some questions will ask you about main ideas and details. Others will ask about implied meaning, speaker attitude, or how ideas relate to one another. Use both what is stated and what is implied to answer.
Good afternoon, Professor. Thank you for meeting me. I wanted to go over my paper on ancient pottery analysis techniques and how chemical composition reveals trade routes.
Good afternoon, Mark. That is a focused topic. Tell me where you are stuck. Do you need help with methods, case studies, or interpreting data?
I am trying to explain why multiple analytical methods are necessary. I can describe XRF and petrography, but I am not sure how to show their complementary roles using examples.
Start by defining the key techniques and what each reveals. For example, portable XRF provides elemental fingerprints on the surface. Thin section petrography reveals mineral inclusions and microstructure.
Right. I have a draft section that contrasts portable XRF, laboratory XRF, INAA, ICP-MS, SEMEDS, and petrography. Which of these should I emphasize for tracing trade routes by composition?
Emphasize those that give provenance signals. INAA and ICP-MS provide precise bulk elemental concentrations for trace elements. Lead isotope analysis and strontium isotopes can track source regions for certain clays and glazes.
I see. I also want to mention that portable XRF is non-destructive and useful for large sample sets in the field. That seems important for museums and fragile assemblages.
Exactly. Portable XRF is portable and non-destructive, so it is ideal for initial surveys. But you must notice limitations, like surface contamination and lower sensitivity for light elements.
So then the paper should say that PXRF can suggest patterns quickly, and then laboratory-based techniques confirm the pattern with higher precision.
Yes, a typical workflow is survey with PXRF, then select representative samples for INAA or ICP-MS, and for thin section petrography, SEMEDS, can help identify glassy phases and glazes.
Could you help me explain a case study where this workflow revealed trade routes?
One classic case comes from Bronze Age transport amphorae. Chemical analysis by INAA showed two distinct compositional clusters. Petrography confirmed different temper mineralogy. Together, the data pointed to production centers in the Aegean and in Western Anatolia.
That example is perfect. It shows how elemental clusters translate into source assignments and then into trade links. I can explain that amphorae with Anatolian chemistry cluster along coastal sites that were part of an east-west route.
Exactly. Make sure to describe how multivariate statistics are used. Principal component analysis and cluster analysis reduce dimensionality and group samples by similarity.
I will include a paragraph on PCA. I read a report that used PCA on trace elements to separate Levantine wares from Cypriot wares.
Include that. Also explain the need for reference collections and geological baseline data. Without regional clay reference data, assigning a precise source is risky.
What about isotopic methods? Should I give details on strontium and oxygen isotopes?
Yes. Strontium isotopes reflect the geological substrate of clay deposits. Oxygen isotopes can complement that for glazed or calcined surfaces. Lead isotopes are useful when the pottery has lead-based glazes or in metal residues.
I will explain that isotopes are especially powerful when elemental analysis alone cannot differentiate nearby sources.
Correct. Also discuss residue analysis. Organic residue analysis using GCMS can reveal contents and sometimes origin of oils or resins, which contributes to interpreting trade of goods as well as ceramics.
I had not thought about residue analysis as part of a provenance study, but that makes sense. If a pot carried imported resin, that supports a trade link.
Yes, but be cautious. Residues can migrate and degrade. Document sampling protocols and contamination controls in your methods section.
Speaking of sampling, you often warn about destructive sampling. How should I balance the need for small destructive samples for ICP-MS with conservation ethics?
Describe how minimal sampling and microsampling techniques reduce damage. For example, laser ablation ICP-MS allows spot analysis with minimal removal, while thin sections require tiny slivers. Always get museum consent and justify the scientific value.
That is useful. I will include ethical considerations and permissions. Another question is about data interpretation. How do we avoid overinterpreting a compositional match as proof of trade?
You must emphasize probabilistic language. A compositional match increases the likelihood of a common source. Combine chemical, petrographic, archaeological context, and distribution patterns before inferring trade routes.
So I should show an example where chemistry matched Anatolian clay, but only by mapping fine spots did researchers infer the maritime route linking those production centers to coastal consumption sites.
Yes, that illustrates why combining analytical evidence with archaeological spatial data yields stronger interpretations about trade networks.
One more point. Some readers may not understand technical terms. How can I explain methods like SEMEDS in one sentence each?
Keep it simple. For example, say SEMEDS images microstructure and measures elemental composition at small scales. Thin section petrography identifies minerals and temper under a polarizing microscope.
That helps. I will add a table summarizing each technique, its strengths, limits, and typical contribution to provenance studies.
A table is excellent. End with a short synthesis paragraph that argues for integrated multi-method approaches to map chemical composition to trade routes with confidence.
Thank you. To summarize my main claim, I will write this sentence. Because a single technique can suggest source, but only by combining elemental analysis and petrography can we confidently map pottery to trade routes.
Good summary. Make sure your conclusion also notes limitations and calls for more regional baseline sampling.
I will. Thank you for your time and the case study suggestions. I feel more confident about structuring the paper now.
You are welcome. Send me the revised draft and the table, and we will review the data interpretation together.
Listen again to part of the conversation, then answer the question.
Because a single technique can suggest source, but only by combining elemental analysis and petrography can we confidently map pottery to trade routes.
This concludes the conversation portion. For more TOEFL practice tests and study materials, visit Spinta.org.